welcome to our podcast, Broker Banter Denver, where we are breaking down barriers to home ownership. I'm your host, Kim Davis, the real estate expert.
And I'm Patrick Williams, the mortgage guy. We're here to inform and educate about the home buying and financing process.
And on today's episode, we are going to talk about disclosures in mortgages and real estate, and we're going to get an update on the interest rates for the week.
Yep.
But before we discuss those, how's it going?
It's going great.
Yeah,
big win for the Nuggets last night. 3 up on the Lakers. I think it's like 12 in a row or something.
So by the time this comes out, we'll have hopefully swept, right? And had all 4.
Get the brooms out.
And we had the Broncos draft.
Yeah, the draft.
Or
the first day.
NFL draft, but Broncos had 1 pick for round 1.
Which was different. We didn't have a pick last year in the first round. So we went all Thursday night without a pick.
But no round 2 pick.
This year, do we not have a round 2?
That's what I heard. And so round 3 pick is my understanding.
Okay, so nothing. We'll have something tonight, but not till 3rd round.
But they picked, guess what? What do you think they picked? Oh, a quarterback.
I was a little afraid, though. I got to be honest. Like, we bring in, another guy with the last name of Wilson. I don't know what we were thinking there. And so all of a sudden,
they traded, right, to get Zach Wilson.
Yeah. And so, I mean, I think there's pretty little risk, but from what I hear, he's like not, a great teammate. But we'll see. He does seem, there's good stories about him.
Listening to some real sports talk, I was listening, and they were saying that actually when he was in college, that he was a great prospect.
Well, he was the number 2 pick.
Yeah.
Overall.
They said he
just hasn't been able, he hasn't done anything with the Jets. But I'm like, oh no, they're trading for a quarterback. Like, what's happening? Are we still going to make a quarterback pick? And actually, I thought it worked out pretty good last night. Like, as far as the draft goes.
Well, my husband's a big Michigan fan, so he was still hoping. He was holding out hope.
There was no way he'd fall to 12.
I know. He knew that. Well, he went to 11. He went
to the
pick right before J.J.
I couldn't
McCarthy.
believe he fell even to 11, to be honest with you. I was just glad. I think Bo Nix was the guy Peyton wanted all along. I think it worked out really well.
That's what they say. That's what he said. But what are they supposed to say? Oh, no, I was
I really
for this guy. But no, I settled for Bo Nix or not?
At 12, you're not going to get Caleb Williams. They knew they weren't going to be in the running for those first 3 quarterbacks. Right. But I thought we were going to end up maybe with somebody else who's injury prone, and that scared me a lot. So I was glad the Falcons took him. And I think it worked out. I think, we've got 3 second string quarterbacks. So we're sitting really, really well. But you know what? At least there's a little bit of hope in the long run. We're finally, I think starting to get to the rebuild. We've just been putting it off for so long.
I'm very excited to have Broncos tickets for the rebuild season. That makes it, I don't know, should I be excited?
It's still fun to go to the games.
It is fun, I guess.
Should you be excited about the Broncos season? I wouldn't hold your breath. I think it's going to be a painful couple of years. You know what, though? We've got the Nuggets and the Avs.
Exactly.
So, we can focus on those. We've got, the Avalanche coming back home with a 1-1 tie tonight. Right. So that'll be a good game. Georgie's playing a little better, a little concerned after that first game.
1-1. So,
yeah.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. And, I guess other than playoffs, what else is going on? Sounds like your son's coming home from college. So
yeah, isn't that crazy?
That's awesome.
Yeah, he's wrapping up his freshman year. Okay. So the school that he goes to, they kind of compress the year.
Yeah, because
it's early. It's not even in May yet.
Right. He was late to get started. They
go kind of end of August.
I thought it was middle September. Okay.
It's end of August.
Okay.
But the thing is, it's 120 degrees in Phoenix.
Right.
So they don't get much of a Christmas break. They only have like 2 weeks.
Okay.
Even Thanksgiving break, he came home for the whole week, but he had to get online and do online courses for the Monday and Tuesday of Thanksgiving. Okay. So I think they compress that year and make it a little tighter.
Because is it already 90 degrees?
It's already hit 100 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow, that is crazy.
I know.
I could use a little warm up here, though.
Yeah, somebody keeps calling me pasty. I feel like I could get some sun.
I called them pasty once.
I guess obviously.
I've become a little pasty myself.
I wasn't going to say anything.
Asian,
I was thinking it, but I was just going to keep that inside.
This is pretty light for me.
hopefully.
Well, we're dealing with a lot of high school graduations and getting that ready.
That's exciting.
Yeah, my youngest, as you know, Lulu,
Yeah.
she's about to graduate from Chatfield High School. So
Very exciting.
she is excited to get that done. But then getting a lot of invitations,
Yeah.
for
We've gotten quite a few.
graduations. And are you like, I'm surprised I knew this many people this time,
Yeah.
this age.
Yes,
right?
I
Because your
am.
kids are, well, our oldest are
We're-
the same age, but your youngest is
We're kind of in
younger.
between, right?
Yeah.
Like my son graduated last year, my daughter will graduate next year, so it's this in between.
Right,
But we still got at least 5 invitations for graduations. So
Right, yeah.
yeah.
So-
Yeah, it's exciting. I love spring, and you get playoff hockey, playoff basketball, the draft. I wish I could say I was excited about baseball, but then you get all the graduations. The mountain biking trails are starting to dry out.
Right. I know
like,
you're super excited about that.
all the trees are blooming.
So I do have a question for you.
Okay.
I was reading through some social media post, and someone had said, I don't understand why everyone celebrates high school graduation. It's just something that they're supposed to do. And I thought that is interesting because I don't feel that way. I think it is definitely something to be celebrated. But
It
I
is.
thought, what do you think?
I think that's it's kind of the first big accomplishment of your life,
Right.
Right, like you made it through school.
Persevere.
Yeah, whether you're going to college or trade school or you're going to
Right.
work, whatever, it doesn't really matter.
Right.
It's you've graduated high school, and I think that should be celebrated.
Yeah, I think
life
yes,
is about,
it is something that you're supposed to do, but it is like you're an adult. When you graduate, you're usually 18.
Yep.
Most seniors,
Yeah,
are
maybe if you're
18,
not, you'll be turning this
right?
summer.
And it's like, hey, and not everyone graduates from college, and even nowadays,
No, I mean graduation rates are much higher than they've ever
Right.
been, I think, but not everybody. I mean, it's not
Right.
100%.
Right. And I think that there are a lot of kids that maybe don't graduate college. And, as we know, we need a lot more, plumbers and electricians and,
Yeah.
those
Trades.
jobs, trade jobs. Thank you.
I mean, I think we might be kind of making a turn. I feel like
You think?
I don't know, maybe from what you've told me of Lulu's class and my son's graduating class last year, it just felt like there were less kids just automatically, I'm going to college because that's what I'm supposed to do and that's what everybody expects me to do.
Right.
And going in and going into the service or
Right.
going into a trade or just not that typical college route because college isn't for everyone.
college is not for everyone.
And now, with how much it costs to
Right.
go to college, you better want to finish your degree.
Right.
Don't just go to.
And you may need a year. Maybe it's okay to take a gap year and decide because a lot of kids go to college and don't know what they want to do. And
Right.
I have an older daughter who went to cosmetology school and she is very excited about starting her career and she's 20 and
Yeah.
she gets to start
Right.
versus,
a couple more years in school
Yes.
still, and the
being
amount of debt that you have to take on.
$150,000, $200,000 in debt.
Yeah.
Even though my youngest is thinking about it now, but she is going to take probably a year. But anyways, I
Yeah.
just thought that was interesting that this
That is
person
interesting.
was so adamant about not celebrating high school graduations because it's what you're supposed to do. And I thought that was
We're talking about getting older, right?
Right,
Like we're starting to
right.
get towards this
We
next stage of life
just
where
have more
our children are
wisdom.
graduating and but I just see the value of celebrating people
Yes.
and achievements
Yes.
and birthdays
Yes.
and whatever. Like
Right.
with that to me it's like what are we doing if we're not celebrating
Right.
with
And having
people?
some fun.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, I think let's celebrate.
Yes, I
Yeah.
agree. So congratulations. Well, I guess we'll say congratulations next month when everyone graduates, right? So
That's right.
We'll save it.
We'll save
Okay.
it until we actually have the diploma in hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, just in case.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, we don't need to talk about that.
So
but-
what do we want to talk about
So we're
today?
going to talk about, I think, disclosures. And so as we had said in our last podcast, that this is listing season. And so I thought that, there are many real estate disclosures that you have to do. And so there's, like a good, 7 or 8 disclosures usually with all listing contracts. And so I thought maybe today we would talk about seller's property disclosure to
Okay.
start off with. And so what a seller's property disclosure is if you get if you're listing your home, then you have to fill out a seller's property disclosure.
Okay.
And so did I not email that to you?
Oh, I did not get that, but that's okay. We can continue to talk. I can follow along.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so seller's property disclosure, which is usually the longest form that most sellers have to provide, and what it is anything that has happened on your home. And people always ask me, well, should I say this? Should I say that? And I will tell you that it's great to disclose everything that you know about your house, because this is the one form that can get you out of lawsuits, right? If for any reason the buyer comes into your house and they're like, oh, you didn't disclose that the basement floods all the time. Well, if it's in the seller's property disclosure, then you don't have to worry about maybe a pending lawsuit because they've been disclosed it, right?
Yeah.
Hey,
okay.
I always say that it's smart. Like, for instance, the first part of the seller's property disclosure is like, hey, are there any improvements that have been done? Or, well, they say improvements, but like, is there structural issues, moisture and water,
damp basement,
damage,
maybe some settling issues.
You want to, those are big.
Those are big.
Backing up sewers and stuff. Hey, maybe it doesn't back up anymore, but you should disclose, yeah, my sewer
has backed up.
In the past, we got it rotor-rootered or whatever, and it no longer,
Is that a verb?
A rotor-rooter?
Yeah. Rotor-rootered.
Rotor-rootered? It's a verb now.
My old house, it was built in the 70s.
Right.
And so it still had the clay
Pipes.
main.
Yes, there are still a lot of those around.
We did have that problem that wasn't disclosed to us.
Right.
But it was sold as is. So I don't know if we really had any recourse there. But I did learn that as soon as I start to see like the daffodils or any of the trees starting to bud, they make this stuff at like Home Depot or Lowe's or whatever, and it burns the little roots that have grown into that clay pipe. If you still have a clay pipe, you should probably just try to get it replaced at this point. But that was expensive. A good tip. It is expensive unless you have insurance, because water backup is part of a policy add-on that a lot of people carry.
Right. Actually, and there's speaking of insurance, that's a whole nother podcast we could do about, what you need to do for insurance. But they have one that, can cover, what do they call it? Like amendments to the, where it will cover like the sewer line. And it's actually very affordable.
It's about $1,000 instead of 10 to 12 to get it replaced.
So it takes you 10 to 12 years. So usually you would do a sewer scope during your inspection period. But and then you would know, hey, I need to add that amendment onto my insurance to cover sewer lines. Because sewers are very expensive, especially if they have to go out in the street and dig to get to your sewer line.
Most of the time they can do it through the yard, but there are times, where they have to get out to the main and go under the street.
Especially if it's clay pipe, and so anyway, so we want to disclose everything.
Everything. So, that's your advice. Disclose everything.
Everything. And with an explanation. So don't just say, yes, yes, and that's it. Has the basement ever, or has the sewer ever backed up? Yes. No. That's not what we want to do.
We don't want to just say yes.
Yes.
We want to say
yes with an explanation.
Sometimes in the spring.
Well, sometimes in the spring, no.
Got it rotor-rootered. I got it rotor-rootered.
Yes. In 2009, it backed up rotor-rooter every year, haven't had any issues, right? We want to make sure that there's an issue, but we fixed it. And so we want to...
But you've disclosed that issue.
We've disclosed that issue.
Okay.
So then they can't come back to you in a year or 2 years and say, hey, you didn't tell me about the sewer backups. Especially roofs. Roofs are a very big deal here in Denver Metro, right? We have a lot of insurance companies trying to get out of Denver.
A lot, nationwide, including one of them.
And didn't you say that your insurance just went up?
Do we want to talk about that?
No. Oh, we can say
that. We can talk about it. So I have a carrier who would like to exit the state. And I think the way they're doing that is that they just increase their premiums to absurd amounts.
Right.
To then make you go with a different carrier. So the previous policy period, my insurance premium went up about $2,000.
Right.
And I shopped it, but couldn't really do anything better. So I just stuck with them. This year, it went up close to $4,000.
Oh my
So in the
goodness.
last 2 years, that would be a $6,000
Wow.
increase, which is well over 100%.
Wow.
In 2 years.
Right.
Yeah. So I was able to shop around a little bit. I think I found an alternative, and it'll keep me at the same level that I'm at now, maybe
Okay.
just a little bit less.
Right.
So
Well, I do think that we should probably do a podcast on
I think
what
we
we
should.
know about insurance. And you know what? We could probably maybe
I-
get an insurance agent in
I bet we
here
could.
to discuss some of the things.
That's a great idea.
Right. That's a great idea.
Coming soon.
Coming soon.
Yes. I think
You
that'd be a great
You
episode,
can see
though.
the wheels turning as we talk.
yeah, there, I see a little bit of smoke.
So anyways, okay. So roof is another one that, that's in the seller's property disclosure.
Hail damage.
Hail damage. And so we want to make sure that we discuss, or
Disclose.
thank you, that. Appliances. So a lot of times when you list houses, washers and dryers usually come with it, but you have dishwashers, refrigerator. Hey, if you know your ice maker doesn't work on a refrigerator, you should disclose that because, refrigerators, I know, because I just bought a refrigerator.
They're not cheap.
Cost a few $1,000s
Yeah, they're a couple
these
grand.
days. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, depending, if you don't go.
My client who is closing next week,
Mm-hmm.
they just sent me an amend to extend for a $500 seller credit, and I was like, "Oh, what's this for?" She's like, "The washer quit working."
Oh, yes.
So they're giving her a credit
$500
for
credit, yes.
so she can buy a new washing machine.
And these, you may think they're not big deals, but let me tell you, they have caused a lot of issues. And, you want to make sure that you as a seller just disclose, right? So let's see here. What else is there? Electrical. If you don't have copper wiring and you have aluminum wiring, that is a big thing. That can be a deal killer in a lot of homes, right?
Yeah, so it's in the
Fires.
70s was
Yeah,
when
the
it was.
70s, yeah.
So my old home had copper wiring.
Oh, had
or aluminum.
aluminum.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Yeah, it had aluminum wiring. So we had somebody come in, and I think it's called pigtail.
Yes,
So
that is correct.
Yes. So they went in to every outlet, light and
Yep.
and power outlet, and put in the proper, mitigation or whatever it is to offset any risk
offset any
associated.
right.
And I remember we did disclose that was yes. But we've
it's
mitigated.
been pigtailed, mitigated it,
Yep,
correct.
yep.
And so then furnace is a big thing, right? Everyone always wants to know, what year is your furnace? What year, furnaces are every, 20, 30 years usually? You
20, I
see?
think, is the expected life. I mean, I think some of the older ones probably last 30 years. I would
Right.
say the newer ones are
I
probably
would say
closer
that.
to 20.
I know, it's such a
They don't
bummer.
make them like they
They
used
don't
to.
make appliances like they used to. Hey, I have a double oven that's from 1990, and when our refrigerator went out,
Don't replace it.
The appliance guy goes, "Whoa, this is original." I said, "It is. It was supposed to be the first thing that I gave up, and I didn't because it works so well."
it works-
and then he said to me, "Don't get rid of it. They don't make them like they used to."
They don't
and
make it-
so it is funny. It is the one appliance in my kitchen that you're kind of like, interesting.
You know what? If it works, I would say roll with it.
Right.
Yeah.
So just really, let's see, a couple more sections in the seller's property disclosure. Water, which you don't have to really worry about too much about water, but that includes sprinklers. And so, if you have a break in your sprinkler line, you should disclose that because they're going to find out come
Inspection.
springtime.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not inspection.
Oh, you know what? That happened to me, actually.
Yes.
I remember
Yes.
that.
And so that can always be an issue, right?
Yeah, thankfully, I think the sellers honored, and
Oh,
had
good.
somebody come out and get it in working order
Good.
for us.
Good.
Yep.
Call your agent. And then, we talked about sewer already. So some zoning issues. If for instance, that the backyard that you look out at, like past your backyard, was open space, or let's say it's a golf course, because that's happening here in the Jefferson County, right? And the golf course shut down, and even though they don't know what's happening, but let's say they're going to build houses there, and and everyone in the neighborhood knows, and so you're going to move, that is a zoning issue. That should be disclosed because that could cause.
That seems pretty dishonest.
Yes.
If you've heard, okay, they're rezoning this, they're going to build something behind my house now where I used to have open space or a golf course or something, and they're putting in a furniture row.
Right.
Right? Like, and
Or
you're
like a 200 complex apartment building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm going to get out of here before and not disclose the
Not
fact that I
disclose.
know that.
Correct.
That seems pretty
It is.
shady.
And it can cause a lawsuit.
I
for
would imagine
sure.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I think environmental, So if you know of anything, we don't have really too many things environmental that, but it does say like,
Well, one thing I feel like I've heard a lot of over the past, 10 years are like the meth houses where
right.
where
So,
they cooked in the house and then it was, foreclosed on or whatever. And then somebody came in and they just kind of did a quick fix and flip and just kind of,
right.
and
So
didn't
if they
disclose
know,
that.
so in the state of Colorado, if they know, right, and if they know, so like really the only way that a seller, I would tell you, especially if it's an investor seller, that's going to mitigate is that they had to probably have been caught.
Right.
And so you can definitely test for it, as you should, because the only way to mitigate a meth house is you have to take it all the way down to the studs. And then I believe you still have to kill the studs, and because meth sits in the walls.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're putting all new dry in, you're
All
doing
new drywall.
everything.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
New insulation, everything.
Everything.
Everything. Down to the
Yes,
studs.
Yes.
Yeah.
And in the state of Colorado, if you do that, you do not have to disclose that it was a meth house. So I'm not the one who makes these disclosures, but that is just the law.
Good to know.
Yes. So common interest communities, so HOA communities, if you know anything there, it doesn't have to be personal opinion. Just because you don't like the president
Defund
of
the
the
HOA.
HOA doesn't mean that you need to disclose that necessarily, because that's an opinion. But then, of course, there's general disclosures. And so that's kind of the big thing about sellers' property disclosures. You just want to make sure, yes, if there's a question, if you should disclose it, the answer is yes, just disclose.
I think that's an easy
Right.
answer.
And
If you think you should, you should.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah.
And so there's other disclosures that you have in real estate. So you have a wire fraud disclosure, which is a very big deal now.
Wire fraud's huge.
Right.
I mean,
do you have a wire fraud disclosure also?
it's on the signature of every email I send.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're required to put that in because we do deal with so many wires, right? Being a lender. But the key to...
Well, let's talk about what a wire disclosure is, right?
Yeah. So why don't you talk about the disclosure and then we can talk more about...
Okay. Well, why don't you explain what a wire is? Do you want to do that?
So a wire is essentially a large transfer of funds from your bank to title, typically. Sometimes you can wire, and then the title company will wire you your proceeds if you're selling. You can also wire your earnest money from your personal bank account to. So it's just a movement of money. Right. I mean, it's a big Venmo. Right? I mean, that's really what it is.
Yeah, that is what it is. And so what we have over the past few years, I would say maybe 5-7 years, I don't remember. My years seem to mesh
They go
together.
faster. Yeah.
But what has happened is now title companies don't give you a big check. Like, let's say that you have $200,000 in equity that you're supposed to get. Now, they don't like to cut checks. They usually wire you the funds. Or let's say you as a buyer needs to bring $200,000 to close. They will not accept a check. So you have to wire it.
You mean I can't write a personal check for $200,000?
No, you can't.
I'm good for it. I promise it's not going to bounce.
Really? Huh. Now you own a house, but we didn't get the money. So wires, what has happened is there are, of course, scammers out there. And what do? They send a fake email from the realtor, a fake email from a title company saying, hey, wire instructions have changed, wire to this fund. Then guess what? The buyer or the seller is out hundreds of thousands or thousands of dollars. And so now we do make you sign a wire fraud disclosure saying that we are not responsible for who you wire it to. So we will help direct you, like, call this number. We tell you to watch out if anyone emails you, calls you.
That's the key, though.
Don't you always check with us or the title company.
Check.
Yes, you just want to double check. That wire is very, very important.
Before you send the funds out, pick up the phone.
Yeah.
So I have a funny story.
Okay.
It's not about wire fraud because wire fraud is not that funny. I've actually, there's a couple stories of,
I've heard some.
I was at a networking event and we were doing some IT, like here's how to protect yourself and things that you can do. And this lady had a terrible story about sending 50 grand over a wire and she never got it back. So once that wire is gone, once you have initiated that transfer, those funds are gone. And
Oh.
if you've sent them to the wrong place, you're not getting them
No,
back.
the bank is not.
They're not responsible.
Yeah. Well, and the bank actually, they're pretty good now. They call you to make sure that you have agreed to the wire. We actually had that in a closing yesterday. The wire was not there because she wired the money, but she never
didn't do
confirmed.
the confirm. Yeah. So they are. I think there's more second. Multi-factor authentications that are happening, which is always good. But yeah, call. That's all. I mean, double check, triple check. Hey, I am sending funds for this closing to this title company. I want to confirm your wiring instructions. That's really, as long as you're doing that, right? So my wife and I, my daughter had prom last weekend. So we go do pictures and we're like, let's go get something to eat. I had some work stuff that I had to handle. And so we were kind of running around and we put our name down. They're like, it's going to be like an hour-long wait. And so we're like, well, why don't we just run home? We'll get this work thing done real quick and then we'll come back. So it was like, okay, cool. So we go, and then while we're at home, both of us leave our wallets at home. So we get to the restaurant and we're going to order a margarita. And we're like, do you have a way to pay? I have Tap Pay on my phone, but there's still some places that don't take like Apple Pay or Google Pay.
Yes.
And so they're like, no, we don't take it. So we're like, oh no, what do we do? Right. And so we're like, should we just leave? Like,
had you ordered the margarita already?
Well, we were at the bar. We didn't order. We didn't order, thankfully. And then, so we ask them if they take it. They say no. But they're like, if you have a physical, like if you have a picture of your card, we'll just run it manually for you. Right? Like as long as you got the code on the back and everything, we can do it. And we met this couple that were like, oh, well, you've just Venmo us the money. We'll pay for your bill. We're like, look, that's very kind of you. But so my daughter is eating.
I mean, you were in a Highlands Ranch restaurant?
We were in a Highlands Ranch restaurant. But
you might have been okay, but that still
no,
seems
I know.
a little.
It was.
Very
they
nice,
were very nice. They were very nice. They
Like,
were trying to help us find a solution to our problem.
Kind of scary.
Yeah. Well, they were ordering. We were behind them in line when they ordered their margarita.
I would do that.
So,
I'd probably offer.
Right. It's just kind of so. But here's the funny part of the story. Okay,
there's funny. Thank goodness.
My daughter.
I'm just kidding.
It might be a little long. My daughter, I'm like, she's at dinner at Maggiano's for prom. I'm like, send me a picture of your debit card because I knew.
Oh my goodness!
And she's like, why? Right? Like she questions the request, which
I
was
would
very
too.
smart of her. And then she calls me. She's like, am I being scammed? Like, what is happening here? I'm like, no, it's
Good
fine.
job,
Right?
Gabby.
Right? So then I'm like, oh, my son. So I text my son. He's in college. I'm like, hey, send me a picture of your debit card. Not a question, not a why, not a anything. He just sent me a picture of his debit card. So he bought us dinner that night, which was really nice of him. Should probably pay him back.
Oh, Elijah, we're gonna have to have talk about fraud.
Didn't even question it. Just here's the picture.
That's the difference. Probably that was probably girl guy kind of.
Maybe
I don't know.
I think my daughter's a little more skeptical.
You know what? My kids probably would have just sent it. Yeah.
I mean, I would like to think I'm a trusted.
It did come from your phone number.
But even my daughter's like, and she literally called me. She's like, "Am I being scammed? Like, what is happening?"
Yeah.
I thought it was really funny. Yeah.
I'm proud of her.
So double check your wiring instructions is the moral of that story. If somebody calls you and says or sends you a text, here are your new wiring. Call and verify.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So I think those are the two disclosures I'm going to go over for this episode. I know you have a couple of disclosures that you have to do
and we have more than a couple.
Right. So I don't think, are there some important ones?
The most important disclosure really is the closing disclosure.
Okay. And this is for buyers.
This is going to be for buyers or if you're refinancing, for that matter, really any mortgage transaction.
Right.
We have an entire packet that we send out. It's pretty large. But really the most important disclosure in all of it is that closing disclosure. Right. We send one at the very beginning of the transaction, and then we send one 3 days prior to closing. Right. And we show all of the fees and everything that's associated with getting your loan.
And so this was a big change that happened in the mortgage industry. Geez, like I said, my years get mixed up. But probably, 10 years when they got rid of the HUD and TRID came in, right? So a HUD 1 settlement is what we used to have back in the day,
I think
where
it was like
it showed like
14 or 15.
Okay. not years, but in 2014
Yes.
or 15. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been a lot, like you said.
TRID was a big regulation where they changed a lot of things. The acronym we used was the reason I drink. Because it was a lot
Yes,
at that
it was
time.
a lot.
Everything is fine now, but
funny.
yeah. So the CD really discloses all of the fees associated with doing the loan.
CD being closing disclosure.
That's right.
Yes.
And then we'll send that same document to you again. We're required to provide it 3 days prior to closing. And it's going to compare those fees that we initially sent you compared to the actual fees, because sometimes things change, right?
Right.
We're gonna over disclose some things just to make sure that it's possible that you're charged $850 for an appraisal, but we're going to try to find you one for $600.
Right.
So compared the
Right.
initial to the actual.
Right. And the reason why that changed is because the government thought that we needed to disclose better to the public, right? That there wasn't a big scare, right? Like,
That's right.
we had estimated that you only need $5,000 for closing costs, but then really you need 10. And the reason why,
Well, sometimes that HUD 1 wouldn't be delivered until you're
Right.
at closing.
Right.
You wouldn't even see it
Right. Or the
before
day
you got to
before.
closing. Yeah.
And so it caused a lot of frustration.
did.
And so it is nice.
It is. I think
to-
there was definitely some good to that. I think
Yes.
there's maybe some it's created a lot of just red tape that you
Right.
have to kind of deal with.
Unfortunately.
But I think that's kind of the way things go when you get the government involved, right?
I was going to say it, but I thought, I should
lot of
just
red
hold
tape.
back and not talk politics. So, okay, moving on.
Moving on,
And
interest
then
rates.
Interest rates. Ugh.
Yeah,
how's
I
it
mean that's
going,
pretty
Patrick?
much. I think Kim knows where this is going. So she's right. That's kind of the noise that you want to make right now. We are currently sitting at 2024 highs.
Oh, that is horrible.
It is. Yesterday was not a great day. We had some inflation numbers that came out. GDP, though, is
Yesterday
way down.
is in April 25th.
That's correct. So,
2024.
and then we've got a lot of news coming up next week. Today actually looked to be better, even though the PCE number came out hotter than expected. Inflation is still high. It's not coming down, and the likelihood of a Fed cut in June is pretty much gone. Now we're hopeful for a September cut at this point, but inflation is just not coming down like we thought it was in the fourth quarter of last year. So we're sitting, above 7% again. But I do see some things breaking loose. We'll see with the job numbers coming up next week. We could have bad news for the economy, good news for interest rates. So if job numbers comes in weak, GDP was low, so that was a bad gross domestic
product,
right? Which is kind of what the economy is doing as a whole. So with all of these numbers, the Fed's meeting next week. Nobody really knows where we're going. There's there's things that are saying inflation is stickier, it's not coming down. But now the labor market is softening, GDP is coming down, so the economy is starting to show some cracks in the foundation. So the Fed has their work cut out for them to try to balance those things. There's even talk of them raising interest rates again. I think there's a 0% chance of that.
Wow. Okay, how about
0? Okay, 0.05.
Okay.
I just don't think they're going to be able to.
Well, and let's keep it in perspective, right? Overall, even though for our lifetime, for maybe our children, these are still
they're not
low interest rates. This in the grand scheme of when mortgages started, in the 80s, right? I was
18%.
Yeah, people talked about.
Yeah,
I was in elementary school, so I don't.
You don't remember what the interest rates were in the 80s?
I wasn't buying a house.
No, but coming off of those Carter years and early Reagan years, they were very high.
Right.
I saw a stat that the 30-year average, right? So over the last 30 years, the average interest rate is right around 7.5%.
Right. So we are at the average. Now, what makes it hard, right? I'm here for you people. I understand what makes it hard is affordability, as we've talked about many times, right? The affordability of a home. When we bought in 2000, we talked about this a lot, but we bought our first home for $250,000. It was a great 2-story, 3-bedroom, 2-bath home, over 1,800 square feet, not including the basement. And, we did 7%. We could do that. That payment wasn't, it was high. It always feels high. It's gonna
feel like a lot, but I feel like you almost always grow into that payment.
You do.
Yeah.
You do.
And we can get creative. There's certain things that we can do to figure out that affordability. I do think the difference today, I don't want to discount it because we did buy at a lower time. It's the interest rates plus now the price points in Denver. It's a challenge, but we can get creative and find solutions.
But then, we are actually talking to a client after this podcast today about, they have been renting and they, pay $3,000 in rent. And so why, if you are used to that payment, maybe we should look at buying.
Do you know what an interest rate on a rent payment is? 100%.
Yes, 100. That's true.
You're not getting, you are giving that money away every single month.
I was talking over you, but say that again. Interest rate.
An interest rate on a rent payment is 100%.
You get no equity.
That's right.
You get no upside.
Nope.
So, other than a place to live.
You do have a place to lay your head at night, but you're not building equity for the future. You're not paying down a loan. You're not, it's just, there's so many advantages to home ownership. So we want to help you guys figure that out. That's why we're here. Give us a call if you have any questions. Did you have a point to make about the renter though? No.
Just buy.
Yeah, buy.
I think. Yeah, buy.
Yeah, it's always a good time to own.
We're a mortgage broker and a realtor. We think you should buy. Go figure that one out. But I think on that note.
Yeah. So if you found any part of this podcast useful, which I hope so.
Me too.
Please give us a like or share us. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and iTunes.
See you next week.